Welcome to the Things We Don't Talk About podcast with Alison Mulligan and Mike Hartley.
So, welcome everybody to the Things We Don't Talk About. And on this episode, we are joined by the delightful Malin Martnes. I never say it right. Would you like to say it for me, Malin?
Close enough. Malin Martnes.
Martnes, right? Who was the world's first MVP for talent? Was it talent then?
Yes. Forever the only talent MVP.
Yes. No one will take that away from you, ever.
No. That's one good thing about name changes.
Yes. So, and one of my favourite MVPs, I have to say. And as always, we have the lovely Mike Hartley, who's looking a vision in cream. Is that cream or is it grey today?
It's creamy grey, yeah.
Grey, which is, that's a colour. They're all colours too. They're equally important. So, and this week, would you like to do an introduction for yourself, Malin?
Yeah, I live in far north, Norway. I have been a Biceps MVP since July of 2019. I work as head of dynamics in a company called Knowit. We work both in Norway, Sweden, Denmark. I think we're even in Finland. Pretty Scandinavian broad. Where I work with CRM, as it was called back in the day, still called, and HR. So everything Power Platform and Dynamics 365, except for ERP solutions and projects. I don't do that.
No.
Why would you?
Just Ante.
Exactly. Yeah. And you are recruiting, just if anybody's watching this and interested in applying to you.
We are recruiting, so just contact Alison for that.
And there's Alison, the recruiter, getting in there as well. You're always on, aren't you, Alison?
I just, somebody might watch it who lives in the area, might want to apply to know it.
And they should, because it's an awesome company.
It's a lovely company to work for. We were just having a pre-match discussion about how to approach the topic, which I think probably maybe I'll budget as potential loneliness, maybe. And some of the things we were talking about were that during this last year, it's been a year now, hasn't it? Like
Yep.
I think it's actually a full year since we went into the first lockdown. There have been people who have broken up, their relationship has broken up, like whether it's a divorce or just a separation if they're not married, and they're forced to continue living together because they're in lockdown. And there are people, I know someone who unfortunately wanted to break up from their husband but couldn't find anywhere to live. It wasn't that she had to stay with him, but she couldn't find anywhere to live because apparently this is a popular thing to do and all of the rental properties are getting snapped up like that as soon as they're available. So she literally couldn't find anywhere. So like there's two kind of stresses there. And one of the other things that we touched on is that I think even if you're someone that likes your own company and likes to be at home and quite insular, like there's a point where enough is enough. And so like I think maybe we start on the point of, how does one what are the coping mechanisms maybe that you have or that other people have that where they're living in a situation where they're forced to stay with somebody that they actually don't want to live with anymore, and don't get on with because like they've probably not been forced to spend this amount of time together ever in their relationship, right? So cracks are going to show. Do you have any knowledge or experience in that area?
Yeah, because what else is there to do in lockdown but to get a divorce?
Well, it seems very popular. So.
Yeah, it does. So I got quite early because Norway closed down the 12th of March. So around Easter last year, we decided to split up, and we had been together for 12 years. So most of my grown-up life we'd spent together just out of college, and moved in together pretty fast. So we'd been together for a long time, and you get used to people. So around Easter time last year, we split up. And of course, after the split up and everything is closed, comes the absolute worst period of a breakup, living together after you break up, which is, I think, probably the worst period anyone can go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one thing is breaking up and not seeing each other again, or seeing each other for short amounts of time, but to actually break up and have to spend every single day together afterwards, that's not fun.
I can't imagine how tough that is. It's hard enough, like when you've been with someone for a long time, especially when you have a child together. I obviously don't have experience of that, but presumably that makes the decision to go your separate ways much harder. And I feel like for me to get to that point, I would probably dislike someone a certain amount. So that if I had to like live with them, and knowing how, like, I'm not hugely tolerant of habits. Like I feel like I have misophonia. Like if Stuart's chewing too loudly and stuff, I'm like, could you please stop chewing? And I feel like if I'd reached a point where I'm like, I don't have to like care about him anymore because, you know, we're not staying together. I would obviously still care about someone. You can't stop caring about someone. But like if you've reached that point where you're like, you know, this isn't working, we're going to go our separate ways, and then still being forced to share an environment with them, like that's super. Presumably not a bed, but like just
No, you know, I was lucky. We had a spare bedroom, so he moved in there, so we didn't actually have to share bed together, which was very good. And because you're always two people in a relationship, and it's not always a two people decision to split.
Yeah.
So you might tend to have some resentment from one of the parts as well. And of course, there might be the lingering, are we doing the right thing? He's right there, she's right there. Could we possibly make it work? Should we have made it work? Is it just this kind of period and all? And that's harder when you have to live together. But as I said, we were lucky. We had 2 separate bedrooms. We didn't have to share a bed. We had our kid to focus on. We both had to work. I walked a lot. A lot. So when the kid was asleep, I took the dog out and I walked for probably 10 kilometers a day.
Wow. For,
3 months straight.
So your cardiac health must be phenomenal.
It was. Because I had to stop walking because I lost too much weight.
Oh my God. Yeah, you don't think that contributed to the migraines, do you?
I don't know. It might have. All messed up things go together. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Well.
So just with you touching on the migraines there, obviously we know you quite well, but some of the people listening won't necessarily know, but you had a real problem with migraines last year that knocked you flat. It absolutely laid you up, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
It started probably, and I've had migraines most of my life, but not diagnosed. But I thought it was just my neck acting up and being an issue with my neck. But I got so much pain that I actually puked and vomited and just had to lay in bed. So, and it's now looking back, knowing the signs, I'm like, well, that was a migraine attack. Stupid. Well, okay. But now it got to the point where I became had to go on sick leave. So I think the late mid-October. I have an application which is fantastic for tracking my migraine, which I have used called Migraine Buddy, where I track all my migraines, and I've done so for almost a year now. And when I realized I had quite a lot of migraines, and I went into the app on my statistics and saw that I had, for the last 30 days, I had more days with migraine than without a migraine. That's when my doctor said, well, that's it, you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two things that have just sprung up in this conversation for me. One is I feel like you're the kind of person like me that unless like a limb is hanging off, you won't go to the doctor about it. Like it has to literally be like hanging by one tendon, like partially severed. Otherwise, I'll just like put a bandage on it or something like that. Like it took 2 weeks of persuading for Stuart to get me to the emergency room about my ankle. And still it wasn't broken, so I just went, see, I told you, it's fine. There's no need, absolutely no need. And I think that that's fairly typical of people, that you're so worried about wasting people's time for something that's not relevant that actually you don't go to the doctor about things that you should do. And so you've been having these headaches that are so painful they make you throw up, but like were you thinking like, oh well, it's just a headache, what am I going to do, go to the doctor and say, well, I've got a headache and it made me sick, like
Yeah, exactly. And it was just it's just my neck, and I probably sit lousy, or I'm too stressed or something. I have a weirdly put together body. It's not my physical therapist is he said it's so good. It's like when they started screwing your bones and everything together, they stopped screwing before you were done.
Oh.
Yeah. So I have like really
loose.
Loose limbs and loose. I mean, yeah. Great thing to hear from a therapist. Yeah, you're just loose.
Yeah, it's fine.
Dude, thank you.
This is fine. Yeah, something might fall off, but it's fine. I don't expect you to worry about that. It's fine.
No, so I'm just used to my body being weird and reacting to all kinds of weird things.
Right.
So
you just shrug your shoulders and go, yeah, it's just another weird thing, right? Yeah. I get that. I think it's an innately, I would say it's innately British for sure, but I think it's an innately human thing for people to think, oh, like, I'll go to the doctor if it gets really bad and just not go. And I don't know what that is, and maybe that's something we explore. And the other thing that struck me is I feel like migraine is one of those things like depression or insomnia, where everybody feels like they have an opinion or a cure or something, and they want to tell you something about it. And the reality is, it's so individual for each person that, like, it doesn't matter that your friend drank nettle tea for 3 weeks and it cured it. Like, you could do that fine, but like, it could just be pure coincidence for them as well. So I find that
and I mean, I've been sick a lot, because when I was pregnant with my kids, I had extreme morning sickness. So I puked for 7 months, and then I got gallbladder stones. So I was even more sick for the remaining period. So I've been to my doctor a lot, and I'm quite used to being sick. So it takes a bit for me to go.
Well, because you feel like I'm always at the doctor, they must be sick of seeing me, right?
Yeah, and it's like when I see my doctor and we're both like, yeah, hope it will be a long time until the next time, but probably not.
Doctor, I've got really horrific morning sickness, but it's probably just my loose bones, so we don't need to do anything about that.
Yeah, no, I ended up getting hospitalized, so it was
that's not fun.
So I mean, I have medical issues galore. My spine is kind of disintegrating on me. So in fact, because the last 2 years I've ended up being rushed into hospital and ending up having spent time in hospital. My wife has made me promise that I'm not going to go into hospital this year because she wants a year off. But it's one of those things that, yeah, you can't. I mean, as long as I don't get a locum doctor, my doctors are like, "Oh, hi, Michael. How are you doing? How are you doing?" And I mean, I go into the pharmacy to collect my shopping trolley worth of monthly medication, and I walk in, and the main pharmacist's there going, "Oh, hi, how's it going? You were on holiday last week, weren't you? How are the kids?" And it's just like, oh, okay. In fact, when we first moved to Rugby, and we found a pharmacist, the pharmacist turned around and goes, "Did you used to live in Stamford?" And I'm like, "Yes." He goes, "I thought I recognised the prescription." And he was the pharmacist from Stamford. It's just, but how? I mean, I know how I kind of cope with these sort of things, and I mean, part of it is being very self-deprecating and taking the rip out myself all the time over it, and almost really dismissive of. I mean, if I say to people, "Oh yeah, I've got a degenerative spine," and yeah, I could end up in a wheelchair any day, and it's just a casual throwaway remark, and then somebody will stand there, and I suddenly think, "Oh yeah, actually no, that is quite a big deal." So how do you cope? What are sort of your coping mechanisms? Because I know what mine are at times, not all the time, but again, we're all individuals, so.
Yeah, it's a hard one because the migraine it hits. I'm back on 50% sick leave now, and I have been for most of this year. But I had I think the start of February. I had my longest period since the start of October without migraines, and that was 12 days. So I have them probably 2 or 3 times a week. So the period I'm in now, I have usually 2 days off, and then a day or two with migraines, and a couple of days off. And but it varies a lot. And of course, with the medication, I tried just about everything, and there are 3 main medication for migraine. And none of them are migraine medication. So they're against depression, high blood pressure, and epilepsy. And I started with the depression ones. And my doctor was like, "Yeah, I really don't want to give you the medication for epilepsy because that will most likely take away your craving for food." And because I am skinny, and with my migraines, I get nauseous and I lose all my appetite, and I'm not allowed to lose any more weight. I'm kind of like the opposite of normal people. I have a hard time keeping my weight.
If you came round to my house for any period of time, I promise you, it'd be, yeah.
Well, my ex gained a lot of weight because I love cooking, and I do so with like proper butter and full fat milk and full fat everything. It's just that I don't have the normal like cravings for candy or something like that. Never had. I probably have things from last Easter in my cupboard still, and just I don't pretty much want it. And of course, for the high blood pressure medication, my blood pressure is on the threshold of low as it is. So he didn't want to give me that medication because that could make me faint. So I got that depression medication. And of course, because my migraines and depression just kind of followed back and back. And the more sick I get from the migraine, the lower my feelings get. Because you feel kind of useless when you have a headache all the time and you can't do your work and you can't tend for your kid and you can't really do anything. So you just lay on the couch or in your bed doing absolutely nothing, which makes, well, your feelings low.
But also, you're not doing the things that would up your serotonin, right?
Yep.
To keep you, yeah, like so it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I don't want to pry Mike into your health issues, so only share what you're comfortable to share. But you know, with both of you, I get the sense that in many cases, some of the things that you have, you don't know what causes them, so there's not really a cure. So there's, you know, you don't know if there's like a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And that must be something that's very mentally hard to cope with, because you don't know what the outcome, or if there is even an outcome, or if it's just this constant churn of trying to do what you're doing. You know, how do you both feel about that?
Well, I'm lucky like that. I think, hope, beg, maybe pray even, that by the end of when everything opens up again, probably after summer, then that will make my brain, so to speak, go back to normal. Right. And be less, because I think it's the entire situation and, you know, the breaking up, and we've had some shitty years with this house that was a lot of trouble, and just a lot of issues, and when with this on top of everything, it just, my brain couldn't handle it. So I think for me, when everything opens up again, I think and hopefully that it will get better for me.
Yeah, you see, for me, it's one of those where I know, for me, there is no cure. They don't know what's caused my spine problems. I had an operation on my neck. So my neck is actually one solid long piece, which is really weird because, I mean, Malin, I'm noticing you nodding. But when people nod, their neck bends at the base. Yeah. Mine actually bends at the top of my spine, at my head. So my neck actually doesn't move, which is really weird. And there are times, if I think about it, it can actually make me feel quite freaked out.
I can imagine, yeah.
But they said, oh yeah, we'll do that, but it won't go anywhere else. And then I started having lower back issues, and they were like, yeah, we'll give you MRIs. Oh, we can see there's some wear and tear, but it's nothing. And I'm like, you are aware of what happened up top, aren't you? And they're like, yeah, fine. And then last year I ended up going into hospital, literally with a clump of disc 1 millimeter away from causing me to lose the whole of the lower part of my body permanently. And I've had to get used to living with that. The hardest part for me isn't me, because I'm kind of like, yeah, well, whatever happens to me, it happens to me. I'll adjust, I'll adapt. I mean, Alison, you and I have spoken in the past, and I remember once you said to me that if I ended up in a wheelchair, I'd bounce back, because that's the kind of person I am, and that's stuck with me. But what hurts me most mentally is the fact that all my kids have grown up with this pathological fear of me going into hospital and what I will be like when I come out. And yeah, I mean, that plays havoc on my mental health, because again, the depression that I struggle with isn't likely to get better, because with depression, people can have it for seasons and then it goes and they're fine. And then there are other people where it tends to be more of a chemical imbalance situation. And that tends to be more often than not lifelong rather than come and go. And in my case, that's certainly the case. So I kind of have to try and balance it. And I mean, there have been points this past year where, with lockdown, with everything else going on, with me ending up in hospital, and of course I went into hospital COVID, so my wife couldn't come. She literally dropped me off outside accident and emergency, and she had to drive off. She wasn't allowed in with me. When I went in for the surgery, they said, oh, it'll be 1 hour, and it was 6 hours. And of course, that whole time she doesn't know. So for me, it's the impact on other people, because I'm kind of like, well, I can't do anything about what's going on with me. But then that gets me down because of dealing with other people and that impact. I mean, when I went into hospital last year, seeing my boys' faces, and I mean, for reference, I've got a daughter who's just turned 24 a few days ago, son who's 19, and a son who's 16. So last year, the boys were 18 and 15, and just watching them, even as teenagers, just with fear on their faces, not knowing what was going to happen and how I was going to come out. And it's really tough dealing with other people, for me. It is. But I know that if I was living on my own, if I was in a situation where it was just me, well, I don't like to think about that, let's just say, because I don't think we three would be here talking today. If I'm bluntly honest, yeah. I can't see that being the case. So while I hate the effect I have on other people, I also know I can't live without other people. So,
you know, like, having a purpose is a real strong factor in people feeling, you know, keeping, at least attempting to keep their mental health on track as much as they can, right? And if that purpose is your family or whatever, then, you know, it's still a positive thing. But yeah, it can equally be part of the problem. And which kind of loops me back nicely to what I was just thinking there, is I feel like there's a recurrent theme of sometimes your physical health affects your mental health, and then because of your mental health, it affects your physical health, which affects your mental health, which affects your, because it's all so closely tied together. And I don't think people, I don't think there's an appreciation that your body is like a nice little ecosystem, and everything's supposed to survive nicely in this nice skin bag of stuff that interacts with the outside world. That was probably the most polite way I could have put that. And, and if part of that ecosystem is a bit out of balance, it affects other things, right? That's how an ecosystem works. So, you know, mental health is inextricably linked to physical health. Yep. And there's a lot of studies that show most of your immune health comes from your digestive system, what you eat and how well you process that food, and how good your bile production is, and that kind of thing, and your nutrient absorption. And there's an awful lot of studies that show that what you eat and all of that digestion, the digestive tract, and how well and efficiently that works, has a massive impact on your mental health as well. You know, there would still, even if that was perfect, there would still be people that have chemical imbalances, that don't have enough serotonin or don't have enough of this or that. But yeah, so like, it seems funny to me that we still, in this day and age, wouldn't think twice about someone having to use insulin for their diabetes, or chemotherapy to deal with cancer, but that there's still so much stigma around medication for mental health. I think it's lessening really considerably. I think it's lessening, but yeah, like it's interesting to see firsthand this correlation between like physical and mental health for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know without a doubt that I got, I don't know what came first, but they kind of blended together depression and migraines and just everything put together. And I mean, I was probably at my worst. I was probably maybe 10 days a month without migraines. And for those of you listening that haven't, that don't have migraines and think, as many people think, well, it's just a headache. It's not. It is way more. As I say, I tend to get very clear indications that a migraine is coming.
Right.
I tend to have my right shoulder tense up and my pain moves upward. But I also get incredibly stupid.
Really?
Yes, I get proper cotton brain.
Wow.
It is just, I have sat at work before I got on sick leave, because now I know how it is. So now I know how to cope with it. But I sat and I was looking at a flow, and I thought, I have absolutely no idea how to do this. I don't understand this. I have done it a million times before. I have no idea what the next step is. How do I work with this? I have no idea.
Oh my God. Is that like when you look at a word and you can't work out, it looks like it's spelled wrong, but like it isn't, and the spell checker's not picking it up and you're going, it's wrong. I don't understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just so frustrating, because I can talk to people and they can say, well, honey, you're getting a migraine. Like,
Right.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that's
I
amazing.
I get all of these hints before it hits, and they can be very long. So it could go on for days before it actually hits. And sometimes, like I've had now these past days, I've just had this constant like ache in my neck, but it hasn't gotten to the point. So I know when it hits my ears, when the pain hit my ears, that's when I can take my medication.
Right.
So before that, I can't really take any of the painkillers that I have. I have to wait until it kicks in. So I could go for days and just be kind of stupid and tired and not work properly.
Is that like living on the edge, though? Do you feel like you're just waiting for the hammer to drop, right? And
Exactly, yeah. And I've talked to my doctor about this, because once you have it as often as I do now, you never really appreciate the good days, because you're just waiting for the next round to start. So you kind of go, well, it's good today, but let's see, it's probably tomorrow is going to be a bad day again. So I just,
So how do you cope with that? I mean,
right now I try to be good at going for walks. So just getting out, especially now, the last couple of days has been sunny and warm in Norway. It's been 10, 12 degrees. So I today went out for a walk, almost an hour walk, and I tried to just go out and clear my mind and put on my loud music and just walk and try not to think of anything. And I also, what's actually helped quite a bit, I've started with pearls, beads. So for those of you with kids, I have started to do the small pearls and beads, and made patterns, and I have made signs for my outside door and for my toilet and laundry room and my bedroom. I made like this big skull on my door. So.
I'm gonna need a picture of that, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's just been so yesterday was a day I was feeling myself getting kind of low because I've had this starting migraine for a couple of days now, and I know all the signs now, so I knew that I was going on a deep dive because I don't slowly go down. I go off the cliff and I'm out, and it takes a couple of days for me to just get back up again. And I just sat down and with the TV on and just made some Marshall from Paw Patrol for my kids. So, and of course I'm beginning to get to this kind of size, so they're kind of big as well. And it takes me a couple of hours, and I think, and I need to count, and it just makes, so the walking and the pearls just kind of takes me out of my own head, which I think it's, for me, that's what helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for both of you, do you like you're both in different situations in terms of your living situations, but like, do you feel like you have to mask how you're feeling a lot from family, and like, is that something that you find really challenging? Do you resent having to do that, or is it just, you know, do you prefer to do that because you feel like other people will worry? And
luckily my kid he's only 4 years, so he doesn't understand that, and
right.
If I have a migraine and I have him, because I have him every other week, then he's super happy because then he gets to watch TV, and
I can do what I want now.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll fix dinner, and I'm fixing dinner, and he often helps me with making dinner. But when we go to bed, I usually read for him. But if I have migraine, I literally I can't read. Crazy. I actually sat on an event with a good friend of mine doing a shared presentation, and halfway throughout the presentation, I could feel my migraine just pounding in. And at the end of it, I was going to read some of the questions because it wasn't deep. So I was going to read some of the questions that had come, and I couldn't read. I couldn't see because I get like blurry vision and nothing works.
Yeah. So
I'm like, yeah, we could take some questions, and I'm like, not in the chat.
You're gonna have to read them out to me. Yeah.
So yeah, it's but I'm luckily, my ex and I have a good relationship, and we work well together, and he lives not far away now, so he's always well, he's concerned, of course, and it's like, yeah, so do you want me to take the kid, or do you need some help or anything? So it's really good, and I think that's one of the most important things when you have a kid together and breaking up, to maintain a good relationship. That's the most important thing you can do, really, because you have a kid together and you're still the parent.
And you owe it to that child to be equally responsible and work with each other to make the best for them, right? Yeah.
But I can imagine it might be quite a bit different for Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate in that I've got a really supportive family around me. But yeah, I do wear the mask an awful lot. I do put on the brave face. I will hide things, and then it might be only a few months later that I will say, yeah, it got really bad back then. So, I mean, summer last year, I was really hitting a major low point. The operation, the implications of it was starting to hit me. and the reality of it, and just that thought of 1 millimeter, one day, just sort of, I think I was measuring something, and I just looked and I saw 1 millimeter, and it just hit me.
Nothing. Yeah.
And I got to the point last summer where I was probably the closest to having another nervous breakdown that I've been since I had my first one 13 and a half years ago. My only one so far. But
yes, also fingers crossed.
yeah. And I mean, people knew that I was struggling, but it wasn't until recently that I was able to sort of say to my wife that, yeah, I actually was that close to it. And it's not because I can't talk to her, it's because I'm trying to protect her, and I don't want to be an added burden, an added weight. I mean, I had opened up to a couple of people through Badger and what have you, and I'd spoken to a couple of people and just sort of said to them, yeah, I actually, you know what, I've just hit the end. It's kind of like I'm not sure how much more of this I can take, kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, the support I get from my family, my parents as well, is immeasurable. It's just I sort of joke with Catherine quite regularly about well, it's tough. You signed up for in sickness and in health when we got married. And she'll turn around and say something like, yeah, well, I never knew it was going to be quite this sickness. But it's a level of support that for me is crucial. And it is crucial, it is critical. But yeah, I do mask things, I do hide them. I mean, it's kind of one of the reasons that I keep the mask that I snaffled off you at the hackathon, Alison. It's kind of one of the reasons I keep it around in the room, is because it acts as a bit of a reminder to me that I need to let people see behind the mask. Not all the time, because people don't want to see Mike, the neurotic mental mess, and
Maybe they do
about it. And I mean, I'm waiting for the floods of comments saying, "Isn't this your neurotic outlet using the podcast for it?" But a mask is relevant at points, but you also need to be able to take that mask off. And whether you're in a situation where you are in a stable relationship and you can turn round to that person, and that stable relationship doesn't have to be sort of lovers, married, or anything. It can be that really close friendship that's sprung up over the years, over the lifetime. But you do need that relationship there, because I just think when you're going through anything physical that is chronic and is crippling, or whether you're going through anything mental that is just completely debilitating, you can't do it on your own.
No.
It's
you
just
need,
not
you need to
possible.
reach out to people.
Yeah.
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 And I find it, where I find the dichotomy in all of that is, like, you, in your own words, I'm not picking on you, I don't mean that at all, but like in your own words, you didn't want to tell your wife something because you didn't want her to worry. And I get that, 100% I get that. But at the same time, if she had something going on that she was keeping from you and then you found out about it, you'd say, well, why didn't you tell me? That's bonkers. I would, we could have, yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you don't think like that at the time, do you?
But first of all, can I just say thank you for being the only other person I know to have actually used the word dichotomy in a sentence. I love that word, and I use it every opportunity I can, and I always get you, mister, with the big words.
Is it a big word? I don't. Is it?
I think it's a fancy word. It's a
Okay.
it's a posh word. People don't necessarily fully.
It's something that a supercilious person might use.
Oh, get you! Who swallowed the dictionary this morning?
Word of the day: toilet paper.
But yeah, it is one of those where I will find myself thinking I am a massive hypocrite, because of the and that actually can have its own dangers as well, because of course that can then affect how you react with people and how you treat people, and it's one of those things that once your head's kind of going in a weird space, you can end up being pushed down a real helter-skelter spiral sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it's one I can't answer on that one, because it's just the way I am. I mean, I think it's just one of those things that, yeah, it's like, well, you'll know it when it gets really, really hits absolute crash rock bottom, and that's when you'll need to deal with it. So I don't want you to deal with it the rest of the time. I'd rather you store your energy up for when it.
But it's kind of like Malin knowing that her migraine is going to drop off the cliff and trying to kind of stop it from doing that, and then only admitting that it's a migraine once it's already happening, right? Like, and I think people around you would rather know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't make decisions for other
They
people.
would.
But...
No, they would. They would. But it's. I don't know. Maybe you find the same, Malin, in that you kind of.
You get to the point where I'm sick of myself.
Yeah.
I'm at that point all day, every day.
Yeah.
Like it's.
And it's like I really don't. I can't be bothered by telling someone, because this happens every other day, and if I tell you one more time, then I just get sick of saying it all the time. And it's like I when I go off the cliff and I know it, I don't want to tell anyone, because I know most likely I'll feel completely horrible for maybe a couple of days, and then I start going up again, and it's like there's nothing anyone really can do for me at that point. I've been there so many times now the last 6 months that I'm kind of I'm getting to the point where I'm used to the migraines. I'm used to the falling into the deep bottoms of depression, and I'm used to it going over after a couple of days. I'm just used to it. So for me, I've gotten to the point now where I don't care. I know it has happened. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen probably a couple of times a month, where I just feel completely horrible, and just need to figure a way to get myself out of my own head, because that's basically what I need, because I get stuck with these feelings of not being useful for work and not being able to do anything for work, and because my headaches makes me stupid and I have them so often that I'm to no use for work, I'm to no use for any of my friends, for my kids, for anything. And I just need to like, okay, but go out, put on some loud music, go for a walk, get back in, do something else. Just I can feel, I know my triggers. I know what makes me that way. And it's kind of crazy because I have this one app on my phone, which is coloring, like painting by numbers.
I have one of those. It's called Happy Color or something like that.
Yes, I think I
love
have
it.
seen one. Yeah, but because I tend to do it like daily, so you have these daily painting.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, but I know once my brain hits the really low, that I get stuck into painting by numbers, and I can just sit there for hours and feel more and more sorry for myself because I was supposed to do something else, but I'm kind of just sitting here coloring and happy colors and making pretty things, and I know I should be doing other things. So I know if I do more than I think 2 or 3 of the coloring in, I know, okay, I'm going way down. I need to put this off.
Do something else.
Do something else. Anything else. Just
Yeah.
So know your triggers.
I'm the same actually. Like there's sometimes I have like tasks. This is nothing to do with mental health. It's pure procrastination. I have tasks to do, and I would rather do anything except those tasks. And that's when the coloring comes out.
I'm procrastinating. I'm doing side quests on my t-shirt.
My life is just a series of side quests, basically. So the other thing I want to say is when I don't tell people something, it's because I don't want them to try and solve it for me. That's my thing. Is like I don't want to have a discussion about it. I don't want your opinion on it. Like I just want to wallow in it for a bit. Just leave me alone, right? And that's that's me.
And especially some friends that might have their own issues, and I don't want to bother them. And other friends, I try to push to, like, I have one friend that I'm trying to push to go out for walks because he needs it. He gets stuck inside, and he's one of the people that are living in a broken up home but not able to move out. And I mean, I lived like that from March until June, and it was making me crazy, making my head explode. And I know people have lived for way longer like that.
My neighbors have, and they hate each other. They literally, like, they actually really didn't like each other before they officially said, let's get a divorce. And I was quite relieved for them, but then they've been in that house for a year, not liking each other. Yeah, that's bad.
That could kill anyone. I mean, no matter how big your house is, that's not good for anyone. And no, and it's just if I try to push someone to do something and they don't do it, and then when I'm down or if I feel bad, then they try to push me back, I'm not going to listen to them because I've been telling you for 3 months to go for a walk and you haven't. So don't you tell me to go for a walk.
I don't have to listen to you. Yeah. So it's fair. Yeah. I'm just aware that we've been at this for nearly an hour now. The time has actually really flown. So any closing thoughts on anything we've discussed?
Talk to people. Make sure you don't sit in your own head and feel sorry for yourself, but talk to someone, anyone.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
And share it with your significant other or your closest friend or someone that you think, I don't want them to worry, because they would feel bad that you didn't tell them later on when it eventually comes out, right?
And most likely they have kind of a clue anyways.
Yeah, and I think I think it depends on who that person is. Like a few years ago, if Stuart had come to me and said, I'm depressed, I probably would have said all of the wrong things, thinking I was being super helpful and going, oh, let's go out for a walk. It's a nice sunny day. Like, let's do this. Whereas actually what I need to say to him is, what do you want to do? And if he says, I just want to build a fort on the sofa and sit in there and sulk, and I'll be, okay, do you want me to come with you, or do you want to do it on your own? Right. Like, so, so check
Should
me
I bring
out.
chocolate?
Yeah. I've grown as a person, right? But like, I think maybe give that person some guidance for when these situations happen, because if there's someone like me that doesn't have the faintest idea what to say in certain situations at a time when you're not feeling bad or low or ill or whatever, say like, sometimes I feel like this. When I come to you and say I feel like this, can you do this for me? Yeah. Maybe that would help.
Yeah. And reach out to people. It doesn't hurt. Probably doesn't hurt anyone if you reach out to people and ask, how are you?
Yeah.
Not ask, are you good? Because then you'll get, okay.
Yeah.
Just how are you?
Open questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes those 3 words can have a huge impact.
They did for you, right, Mike?
They did. Did last summer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
those exact 3 words.
You telling that story to me really stuck with me. So I've been trying to, make sure if I haven't spoken to a particular person for a couple of weeks, just to ping them a message and say, how's tricks?
Yeah. And I tend to now try to not say I'm okay. I never I've stopped saying I'm okay. It's all right. I try to, if things are good, then I'll say, they're corona okay. Because right now nothing is okay. Nothing is good for me, at least. It's the same. It's corona good.
I'm still alive, so yeah.
Exactly. Not dead.
Yeah, always a positive.
Yeah.
There's always a positive in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, unless you have anything else to add, I think we'll wrap it up on that positive
Sound
note.
the plan.
Lovely. Malin, thanks so much for joining us. I've loved it. And thanks so much for your insights. And obviously, thank you, Mike, because you're always wonderful.
And thank you, Alison.
I'll talk to you all soon.
Yes. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Things We Don't Talk About with Alison Mulligan and Mike Hartley.